So many things surprised me during my Appalachian Trail thru hike. I never could have predicted what it was going to be like until I was actually out there. But I think that was particularly true for the state of Georgia. So many things surprised me in Georgia. So today I want to talk about those. Hey guys, if you're new here, I'm Audrey, known as Glow Stick on Trail. I thru hiked the Appalachian Trail in 2018. It was freaking magical. If you're coming back again, thanks so much for being here. And I'm sorry I gotta wear my sunglasses today. It's very bright out here. I'm out hiking a lot around Coots Lake in Boulder, where I live, Boulder, Colorado. Look how pretty it is out here today, you guys. That blue sky. So yeah, let's get into these things that surprised me about Georgia. First and foremost, Georgia was freaking freezing. I'm not kidding. I started on March 20th, which is like the normal time to start. Most people going northbound start between mid-March and mid-April. And Ibex and I started a little bit on the early side of that because we were trying to beat the bubble. But we didn't beat the bubble anyway. We were right smack in the middle of the bubble. But seriously, it was freaking freezing. My second night on the trail, it got down to like 6 degrees with the wind chill. My first morning on the trail, I woke up to snow and ice and icicles everywhere. Oh my gosh, I was so freaking cold for like the first month on trail. Obviously, I wasn't in Georgia for a month. I was also in North Carolina and Tennessee. But geez Louise, was it cold, especially Georgia. So cold that it's like you couldn't stop for lunch because you'd get so freezing and not be able to warm up. And I'd be wearing like all of my clothes at camp and all of my clothes to sleep. Seriously, for like a straight month. I was so relieved when finally the weather started turning and spring actually started to arrive. That happened in Tennessee, and therefore I have such fond memories of Tennessee with all the butterflies and flowers and birds and sunshine. But yeah, Georgia, freaking cold, so be prepared for that. I had a 0-degree sleeping bag. I bought a sleeping bag liner on top of that. I had a puffy and a fleece and Under Armour and all this stuff, and I was still cold. So be prepared for cold weather. Number 2, Georgia was quite mountainous. I know that people talk about, the Whites in New Hampshire and southern Maine being super hard, and they are. Those are probably the hardest parts of the trail. But I think after that, Georgia is really quite tough and quite mountainous. They don't seem to believe in switchbacks in Georgia. It's just like straight up, straight down, straight up over every single mountain. So it's quite challenging terrain. I couldn't find any statistics on exactly how much elevation gain you hit in the individual states, but I can tell you that Georgia is no joke. So be prepared, do yourself a favor, get in shape, practice with your backpack, hiking, on the Stairmaster, on the treadmill, whatever, before you get out there. Your body will thank you. Number 3, it was freaking gloomy. On top of the cold, it was so gloomy. And I know this is just weather, so maybe it's not like that every single year, but the persistence of the gloom made me think that perhaps it is the normal at that time of year down in the late winter, early spring. It was just, oh my gosh, so gray every single day. Combine that with everything's just still brown at that time of the year. Obviously the leaves hadn't started springing out yet. The flowers hadn't started springing out yet. So it was just a brown and gray and gloomy time down in Georgia. I would love to go back at some time, like maybe a little later in the spring, to see what it actually looks like when things are blooming and there's green and there's flowers. Like there were so many rhododendrons, and I would just love to see those in bloom down in Georgia and just see how different the trail is in a different season down there. Because I could see that it was beautiful. Like there were so many rhododendrons, there were waterfalls and streams, and I could see it being super beautiful. But when I was there, gloomy, brown, gray, and I was just praying for the sun to come out. Number 4, there was so much support on the trail in Georgia. This rings true for the entire AT. You get a lot of people out there doing trail magic, trail angels helping you get to towns or helping you with whatever you need along the way. But Georgia, I felt like, was next level. So if you start at Amicalola and do the approach trail, technically not on the AT, but pretty much, then, and if you start during the normal time, there are rangers and volunteers right at Amicalola Falls State Park that are giving classes on backcountry safety and making sure that you have the essentials before you head out on trail. They'll give you shakedowns and they'll weigh your pack. They weighed my pack and they took some things out of it, mostly food. I always have too much food, even now. And along the way, there are ridge runners on the trail in Georgia. So again, they're just sort of making sure that you're doing okay out there, taking care of the trail, picking up trash, taking care of the privies. Thank you to all the ridge runners out there. And I also got my first trail magic in Georgia, a couple of different ones, but my very first one was on day like 3 or 4, I can't totally remember. But it was this church group that goes out to the AT and they're in this early spring every single year and sets up and makes breakfast for thru hikers, brings the thru hiker blocks of essentials. They gave me a carabiner. They just have little things to give you to make sure that you're doing okay and to boost your morale, because they want to help you on this journey that you're on. Like, for a lot of people, could be spiritual or just personal. A lot of people have different reasons for doing it, but this particular church group just really cares about you having the best journey possible, and so they go out to serve thru hikers every single year. So that was pretty freaking awesome. And then I got 1 or 2 other trail magics in Georgia as well, but there's just really, there's so much support on the entire AT, but it definitely is, that support is strong in Georgia, and it starts right away. And you see just what kind of amazing community the AT has. Number 5, along those same lines, I made friends day 1 on the AT. And I kind of thought going out there, like, am I gonna meet people? Is this gonna be an isolating experience? Am I gonna be lonely? Even though I was with Ibex, of course. And I found that day 1 / in Georgia, I found that not to be true whatsoever. In that stretch in Georgia, I met some of my very best trail friends who I remain friends with today. Like, you just immediately, day 1, start meeting people. And again, you just see what the incredible community is like on the AT from the get-go. And number 6, I did not see like any wildlife in Georgia, at least no significant wildlife, like no deer, no bears, no big animals. I probably saw some birds, I don't remember, I probably saw some squirrels, but nothing significant at all. And I think that people go out to the AT and they're really worried about wildlife, especially if they haven't had a lot of experience camping and backpacking. And like, there's just not. And you just learn really quickly that, first of all, you're not gonna see that many big animals throughout the trail because animals don't wanna see you. Like, they're evading you, they don't wanna be near you. And there's obviously like thousands of people, even just thousands of thru hikers that go up the trail every year, not even to mention like day hikers and section hikers. And so the animals, I think, know to stay away. And of course, I mean, there are, for example, like bears that come around shelters and campsites sometimes, sniffing around for food in the night. But I didn't experience any of that in Georgia at all. It wasn't until farther up the trail when spring really came around and the animals became more active. But I think that they're still a lot more dormant down in the early spring in Georgia because, like I said, it is still quite cold at that time of year. So I would guess that the animals are just still in winter mode. So if you're worried about wildlife, especially in Georgia, don't be, because you're probably not going to see any anyway. And if you're curious, on the entire AT, I only ever saw 3 bears. Heard more of them at camp. We'll call them maybe bears because they weren't technically confirmed. But I only ever saw 3. And guess what? All 3 were running away from me. So yeah, those are several things that surprised me about the AT in Georgia. If you have thru hiked the AT or you've even done a section through Georgia, I'd love to hear about your experience and what surprised you about the state. If you guys got some value out of this video, don't forget to give it a like. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more Appalachian Trail, hiking, backpacking, and Colorado content. And I'll see you all next time.